Hi and welcome to Spooky Mystery. Tonight we will be hearing the real-life spine-chilling paranormal encounter of a handful of our viewers. All our stories have been anonymous. We will also look into urban legends, haunted hospitals, haunted schools, the supernatural, horror crime, and so much more. Scary Spooky Mystery, here we look into all the answers and ask all the questions. We will view videos, react, and comment. We will bring entertainment and bring real spooky stuff to you to enjoy. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay spooky.
Hi and welcome. This next story is from a subscriber. Thank you for your story. I will do them in different parts. This is part 1. Where do I begin? Let's start by giving a bit of a background into my grandparents' lives. Leading up to them moving to that house. I can only start from my early years during the time before my grandfather passed away when I was only 9 years old. The time visiting my grandparents is what caused me to be scared of the dark, what's under my bed and in the closet. But the events and stories that was told has been branded in my memory. What happened to me and my family was a very long time ago. My memory is a bit rusty now. But to my best knowledge and short memory, I will do my best to share with you my story. Before I start telling you what happened that terrifying night that left me so scared and terrified of the dark, especially older houses, I will first start with the history and the secret my grandfather had, for you to understand more about that night and that house. My grandparents lived on a farm their entire life as long as I know. I was born during the time my parents lived with them on the farm. My parents were settling into their life as a young couple and lived with my grandparents for a while. My sister was already 2 years old, and she lived with my grandparents before my parents moved in. But I only know little about my family during the time my grandparents lived on the farm. The particular story that my mother told us is when she was around 7 years old. It was about her time growing up on the farm and when her sisters died in a house fire. I suppose my grandparents did not like talking about it. I don't recall them mentioning about that night when their daughters passed away. However, that is another story for another day. But I can't help thinking, what if? My grandfather had a gift to see and hear people whom have passed away or they don't know that they are not alive anymore. What if? Maybe the reason why my grandfather had this gift. What if the trauma from that night have sparked the gift to see and speak with the dead? Losing your daughters in such a tragic accident could cause a lifetime trauma. What if? My grandfather never told anyone about his gift, other than sharing it with us. So many ghost stories, some so terrifying it will give you nightmares. But it was different back in those days. You can imagine if something like that gets out in the open public. The fear of ending up in a mental asylum was real back in those days. I'm very glad that people have learned from the past and can now be open-minded. I do not know how my grandparents ended up in that dreadful house, but I do know they lived on the farm long after their daughters passed away. They moved in that house when they were at retirement age. What happened about the farm? That information I don't have. They didn't have much money, and on top of the struggles, they raised and cared for my disabled uncle. I guess things just got too much for them and lost the farm. Moved to a tiny town very far from where we lived. I remember that my father also didn't get along with my grandparents. It took a long time before we saw my grandparents after they moved in that house. I suppose they were happy there. I just remember good times with them. But the house was so haunted, how can anyone be happy there? I remember how scared I was. But my grandfather had a gift to see and speak with them. So maybe everyone was happy with the living arrangements. It's not like my grandparents had the luxury to move. The end of part 1. To be continued.